I know people, when they heard the numbers earlier today, were rattled. And again, that's why I'm just urging Winnipeggers, now's the time for calm, it's time for compliance.
This is, essentially a 100-year pandemic.
Looking ahead to a weekend where normally the streets would be filled with trick-or-treaters, reiterated a plea he made earlier this week.
Never thought when I ran for office that I'd be at a press conference ever encouraging people not to go out and go door-to-door trick-or-treating, something that is a cherished tradition for our family and something that we really love doing. And I'm looking forward to really having a lot more fun next year.
Tonight at midnight, the Winnipeg Metro region will move to critical level red on the pandemic response system. This change will see many businesses forced to close their doors for a minimum of 2 weeks. The second round of closures has left.
Morning, guys. So I just read the news that Winnipeg will be in code red starting Monday. That's like the highest level in Manitoba's pandemic response system. Museums and many shops will either be closed or operate at reduced capacity. And of course, all restaurants will be for takeout and delivery only. Yeah, that sounds scary. I didn't expect that.
Of course I didn't expect that. If I knew this beforehand, I would definitely think about this Manitoba adventure twice before I came. It was too sudden, and I was caught totally off guarded. I guess the best thing I could do is follow the guidance of the provincial health authorities to stay safe, protect others, and I need to figure out a plan fast because the situation has changed.
By the way, speaking of the haunted hotel, I slept 9 hours and a half last night.
Like the normal Halloween crowd, many businesses in Winnipeg have already closed their doors or have followed red code protocols before the official restriction kicks in at midnight, November the 2nd. Thankfully, the management of the haunted hotel provided the guests with some simple grab-and-go breakfast. I totally did not expect this. It was a great move, good job. That also means, instead of wasting time on lining up at the Tim Hortons for breakfast, I just earned some time to explore, or in my case, rediscover the city of Winnipeg. This footage contains the last time I saw the Hudson-based company in downtown Winnipeg. One of the unfortunate events that took place shortly after my visit was that the department store closed its door at their historic downtown Winnipeg location after 94 years in business. Once a company that ruled most of Western Canada, this was one of the many tragedies caused by the global event of 2020.
Yeah, today's temperature is a bit colder than yesterday. It's about -10. But hey, there's no wind, so actually I feel it's a lot warmer, even though yesterday was only like -2. But seriously, with 70 km/h wind, it was just unbearable unless you wear your stormproof kits, like my shell jacket, that kind of stuff. But today, even without hat, without gloves, I totally feel fine. Yeah, maybe you were asking like, why am I wearing this? Anyways, I can wear this as a protection against the wind in case there's another one. Anyways, you have to wear this indoors everywhere nowadays. Oh yeah, whatever. You see that building over there? It was designed and built by the Freemasons. And that is the provincial legislature of Manitoba. This is definitely the best starting point for a city tour Winnipeg. Let's go.
Located right across the street from the Winnipeg Art Gallery, the provincial legislature of Manitoba was one of a kind. It is one of the most sophisticatedly designed buildings in the entire nation of Canada. It included Masonic designs you would find in books like the Da Vinci Code and those in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, the building had already closed its doors to the public. Here are some of the pictures I took when I visited the building back in 2013. There are some excellent clips about this building's history on YouTube, and I highly recommend you to check them out.
This is the monument to the United Nations peacekeeping missions.
There has been a lot of changes to Winnipeg since my last visit in 2013. Between the area of the legislature and the art gallery, new commemorative statues were built to add flavors to what is formerly, well, just a lawn. Still, if the season is right, you'll find lots of Canada Goose there. Of course, I'm not talking about the jacket. I'm talking about the real thing.
Yeah, once you get into the shade, the wind picks up again, and it's getting cold all over again as well.
In front of the Manitoba provincial legislature, there was an extraordinary sight I certainly did not see the last time I was here.
And right in front of it, we have two tents that were built by First Nations protesters.
Having the highest percentage of Indigenous population among Canada's 10 provinces, Manitoba is a center not only for Indigenous art, but also Indigenous affairs. There are still leftover problems from the past discriminations and persecutions towards Canada's First Nations, and the unfortunate consequences of these acts remain visible, especially in Manitoba.
Actually, the protesters have been living there. You can smell the burning of wood. And you can see this is the pile of wood.
Back in 2013, while taking a train trip, me and my fellow travelers met a high school girl of Cree heritage, who told us that her school principal in Winnipeg believed that participating in a traditional ceremony was not a valid excuse for taking a day off school, and told Indigenous students that traditional Cree hairstyle did not look proper for high school students. This did not happen in 1913. But 2013. Despite Canada have become much more diverse and inclusive, it is a great reminder that the mentality of colonial-age settlers are still around somewhere, although most people are probably not even aware of it. One thing you can't miss is the famous Golden Boy statue on the very top of the legislature building. In fact, it wasn't even some random golden boy. It was the Roman god of Mercury, who blesses the trade, commerce, and transportation. Yet both Winnipeg and the province of Manitoba are important hubs for Canada's logistics industry due to its geographical location as Canada's center point. By the way, can anyone explain what is an Egyptian sphinx doing on the roof of the provincial legislature? Winnipeg is not only Manitoba's capital city, it is also where over 70% of the province's population lives. Yeah, you can say that Winnipeg is Manitoba, although many of my friends in other cities won't be happy. The history of Manitoba as a Canadian province, however, did start in Winnipeg. To discover more about this history, you need to first get to know one person, Riel.
This gentleman behind me here is Riel. So Riel was seen as the founding father of Manitoba. He was a Métis, and then back in the days there was a rebellion launched by the Métis called the Red River Rebellion. He was the center figure in that movement, which resulted in the creation of Manitoba.
If you remember from the last episode, the Métis people were descendants of French-Canadian fur traders and local First Nations. When the British colonies of North America decided to form a confederation, the Hudson's Bay Company, which held a large chunk of land, including today's Manitoba, transferred its territories to the new confederation as well. Dealing with a company and a fully capable political regime were two different things, especially when the new regime you suddenly became a part of sent an English-speaking governor to govern a predominantly French-speaking land. The Métis people living in the Red River Valley, under the leadership of Riel, established their own provisional government and resisted the Ottawa regime. Eventually, Ottawa agreed the establishment of a new province that guaranteed the rights of the Métis people, Manitoba. Riel, however, had to flee to the United States to avoid government persecution.
Later on, he was involved with another rebellion in modern-day Saskatchewan. Eventually, he was caught and executed by the government of Canada. Riel, I think he was one of a kind. He was one of the first founding fathers, of any Canadian territories or provinces that was executed by the Canadian government.
I like how the provincial legislature is laid out. So in the front, you've got Queen Victoria, so that's the symbol of the settlers, and then in the back of the building is Riel, who was a First Nations activist.
So as for more about Riel, I'll explain more shortly afterwards. The Manitoba provincial legislature is right by the bank of the Assiniboine River. So I'm gonna go walk along the river, and we'll go to the intersection between this river and the famous Red River. We'll see you there. Okay, so I am right now on the river walk along the Assiniboine River. Yeah, as I'm walking towards the intersection with the Red River, I can already see ice on the surface of the Assiniboine. Yeah, winter is coming. I've been to Winnipeg in summer before. It had a very different feeling. To be honest, I didn't like Winnipeg when I first visited here in summer. It was literally the worst looking Canadian city I've ever seen. It was almost like if humans built a colony on Mars. That's what Winnipeg looked back in the days. But now, as winter approaches, or some say it's already winter here, it just looks so much different. Everything actually makes sense now. Personally, I think Winnipeg in winter looks better than cities like Montreal. So yeah, if next time I'm coming back to Winnipeg, I'll probably come back in winter. Okay, so I'm now at the confluence of the Assiniboine River and the Red River. So Red River is that river over there. On the other side of the Red River, that's the neighborhood of St. Boniface. So if you remember earlier, I mentioned the Red River Rebellion. So St. Boniface was mostly a Métis neighborhood and settlement. Yeah, so I'm gonna cross the Red River from a very iconic bridge, then I'll be in St. Boniface.
To go to St. Boniface, we need to go through the park in front of the Canadian Museum of Human Rights. I'll cover the surrounding area in the next episode. A path beside the statue of Gandhi will take you to the landmark bridge of Winnipeg, Esplanade Riel. Yeah, even this bridge was named after Riel. The condition was kinda icy on the bridge on that day, so I didn't film me crossing the bridge like how I cross bridges in season 1. Once crossed the bridge, we have officially entered St. Boniface, Winnipeg's historic Francophone neighborhood. Upon entering the district, you realize that signs are written in French. It even has a French language university. This was one of the results of what Louis Riel fought so hard during the negotiation with the Canadian government following the Red River Rebellion. The guarantee and protection of the French language came nearly 100 years earlier in Manitoba than the rest of Canada before Ottawa passed the Official Language Act in 1969.
So after the Red River Rebellion, which resulted in the creation of Manitoba, Louis Riel's legend didn't just end there. He went to the Northwest Territories, which includes states Alberta and Saskatchewan as well, and was trying to help the First Nations people over there. And eventually, during one battle in Saskatchewan, he was captured, and then later on he was put on trial by the Canadian government. In the end, he was executed for what he did. I mean, come to think of it, this guy was like the Che Guevara of First Nations in Canada.
Despite being executed in Regina, then capital of the Northwest Territories, the remains of Louis Riel were put to rest in St. Boniface. His tomb is located on the ground of another Winnipeg's landmark, St. Boniface Cathedral.
So I'm right now at the St. Boniface Cathedral. This is the facade of the old cathedral, which was burnt down. Yeah, like the rest of the places, this place is not open due to the global event of 2020, and we don't know when it's going to open again, or when the global event of 2020 will end. When you want to find out if this is a real cathedral or not, just take a look at the graveyard. One of the graves belongs to Louis Riel.
Eventually, I found the resting place of Louis Riel. It was well taken care of despite of being executed as a traitor. Sir Winston Churchill said history was written by the victors. In this case, the victors were the Canadian government. But if the losers like Riel didn't lay the foundation through his initial success in the Red River Rebellion, who knew what would happen to the Métis community? Now looking back, other Indigenous people across Canada suffered even more under the very same leadership in Ottawa that put Riel to death. They were expelled from their homeland, they were sent to residential schools, and they lost the ability to communicate in their mother tongue. If there were more Louis Riels during that time, what would happen next? Or rather maybe, how would the history be rewritten?
Lady looking at the stall told me that she really appreciated my business. Due to the current situation, they're all closed. So there are two famous